Good morning and welcome to another edition of Friday's Financial Fitness. I'm often asked, how do I come up with topics for these Friday's videos? And my response is based from the feedbacks that I get from my clients. So I encourage you, if there's specific topics that you would like me to discuss, certainly let me know. But I also look at what's front and center stage of the media and what's talked about from the different economists that I follow. And one of the things is right now that's front and center is something that is called interest rate risk. Interest rate risk refers to the potential risk of owning bonds. So with bond yields currently at all-time lows, the concern is that if interest rates move up, that bond prices could actually go down. So I'd like to spend a little bit of time today explaining to you how this interest rate risk could affect you in a negative way. So to understand interest rate risk, we first need to understand a little bit more about bond prices and the main components that determine the price of the bond. There's really three of them. The first is maturity, and maturity basically refers to how long the bond goes out. The second is the credit quality, which basically is the ability of the issuing entity to make its interest and principal payments. And third is the interest rate changes. So for purposes of this video and as it pertains to interest rate risk, we're going to assume that there's no credit risk, and we'll be talking about a government bond that we can be assured that they're going to make all of their interest and principal payments. So I think the best way for me to explain the future value of a bond and the fluctuation is basically to give you an example and draw it for you. Now this is a hypothetical example and it's not necessarily representative of any particular investments, and obviously it could vary, but I simply want to show you a drawing of the fluctuation of interest rates and bond values. So if we look at interest rate risk, I like to show it on what I call a teeter-totter. So if this line here represents interest rates, this line here is going to represent value. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is that on this line with interest rates, if interest rates actually go up, then the value of a bond goes down. Now, just the opposite happens if interest rates go down, like we've seen in the last 20 to 25 years, the value of the bonds go up. Now, the other thing that I would point out is that I'd mentioned the other thing that will affect it is maturity. So if at this axis where everything intersects, if the timeline here is 0, there's virtually no interest rate risk. But if this happens to represent 1 year, you can see that space there is the amount of risk, or what we refer to as interest rate risk, if interest rates went up and bond values went down. If we go out 5 years, as you can see, we've got a greater dispersion or a greater fluctuation, and the further out we go, it gets wider and wider and more fluctuation or more and more volatility. Next week, I'd like to use a specific example so you can see the pricing of the bond and how interest rate changes actually affect the price of the bond. But for now, the takeaway is simply that as interest rates go up, bond values go down, and as interest rates historically have come down, bond values simply go up. I hope this was helpful to you, and have a great weekend.